Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Laurent.
And today we're in Iceland.
Iceland is like a mystical country with a mix of fire, water, and of course ice.
And when you go to Iceland for the first time, it's everything you imagine it to be.
There is no other country on earth with such a high concentration of natural wonders.
You have volcanoes, geysers, hot springs, glaciers, waterfalls. Iceland has it all.
The first time I visited Iceland 25 years ago, there were very few tourists. The country had not been discovered yet.
But today, 2 million tourists visit Iceland every year, and for good reasons, because it's full of incredible sights.
And in this video, we'll take you through our top 10 favorite things to do in Iceland.
Let's go! Number 1 on our list is the Glacier Lagoon.
You will also find it under its Icelandic name of Jokulsarlon.
It's 5 hours away from Reykjavik on the south coast, so it might be hard to visit if you're only spending a weekend in Iceland.
But if you are in Iceland for more than 3 days, you have to make a trip to the Glacier Lagoon.
It's really the most incredible sight to see in Iceland.
It's a lake at the bottom of a glacier.
And large blocks of ice break off from the glacier to form icebergs that float in the lake.
Iceland is full of glaciers, and the biggest one is called Vatnajökull.
And by the way, in this video, we'll be pronouncing all the Icelandic names the English way.
Neither of us speaks Icelandic, and it's incredibly difficult language to pronounce. For example, Vatnajökull is pronounced Vatnajökull.
Or something like that.
So pronouncing names the English way will make things a lot easier for us and for you.
Vatnajökull covers 3,000 square miles, and it's half a mile thick at its thickest point.
So that's a lot of ice that needs to find its way out somehow.
And the glacier forms big tongues in between the mountain ranges.
And one of these tongues ends up in the Glacier Lagoon to form these huge icebergs that float in the lake.
You can walk along the shores of the lagoon, but the best way to discover it is to get on a boat.
Glacier Lagoon was kind enough to take us on one of their Zodiac tours.
They also offer tours on an amphibian boat, which really looked cool.
But we just prefer the smaller boat.
On the boat, you can cruise in between the icebergs and go all the way to the end of the lake, where the glacier ends in a big wall of ice, from which the icebergs break off.
The first time I went to the Glacier Lagoon 25 years ago, the lake was probably half of the size, and it's amazing to see how far back the glacier has receded in just 25 years.
On the boat, you'll also have the chance to see seals that are resting on the ice and catching a tan.
The Glacier Lagoon is an absolutely incredible experience, and you have to find a way to make it part of your plans.
Numbers 2, 3, and 4 on our list are all located in an area outside of Reykjavik that is referred to as the Golden Circle.
And you'll find plenty of tour operators offering day tours to the Golden Circle, which is a good way to explore Iceland if you only have a couple of days and you don't have your own car.
And if you explore the Golden Circle, you'll see number 2 on our list, the Gulfoss Waterfall.
Gulfoss is not the tallest waterfall in Iceland. It's only 100 feet tall and broken down into 2 separate stages of 30 feet and 70 feet.
But more so than their height, it's the amount of water flowing through the falls that makes them so spectacular.
It's the equivalent of 1,000 bathtubs that flow through the falls every second.
And the river continues through a gorge that's 1.5 miles long.
And there are trails that follow the gorge both above and below the waterfalls.
And they offer multiple viewpoints to take pictures of the falls from lots of different angles.
That's what makes Gulfoss one of the most popular attractions in Iceland.
When visiting Iceland, you'll have to be flexible with your itinerary.
Most of the main attractions in Iceland are outdoors, but it rains 150 days a year in Reykjavik.
And a lot more than that in other parts of the country.
Some attractions can be visited on a cloudy day, and some of them actually look more dramatic under the clouds.
But Gulfoss is one of these attractions that looks so much better in the sun.
So make sure you plan accordingly.
Number 3 on our list are the geysers in Haukadalur.
Iceland is like a giant volcano, and throughout the country there are lots of hot springs and geysers everywhere.
The geysers, which they call Geysir in Icelandic, are another popular attraction to visit in the Golden Circle.
Haukadalur is a big field on the side of the mountain, and there is steam rising out of multiple spots throughout the area.
It smells like rotten eggs because of all the sulfur in the hot springs. You can see all different white, yellow, and red colors of the residue along the creeks.
There are marked trails that take you to all the different geysers.
Some of them are just water holes that let out clouds of steam, but others make bubbles like boiling water.
And they sound plain angry.
But the main attraction is the big geyser, which erupts every 5 minutes or so.
Even though you know it's coming, it always catches you by surprise when it erupts.
And you can look at it from many different angles, but make sure you don't stay under the wind because the water is boiling hot.
And full of sulfur too.
Number 4 on our list is Thingvellir.
If you're a geologist or a geographer, you will be like a kid in a candy store, because Thingvellir is a site where you can observe the continental drift in action.
If you remember your geography lessons about plate tectonics, you might remember that Europe and North America are drifting apart from each other.
And Iceland is right on the fault that separates the two continents.
Actually, this fault is the very reason why Iceland even exists, because the island was formed by volcanoes that keep filling the gap between the two plates that are drifting apart.
And Thingvellir is a live example of that. There is a canyon with one side in Europe and the other side in America.
And the two sides are drifting apart by 4 millimeters every year.
And there is a spot where you can take a really cool picture with one foot in Europe and the other foot in America.
And if you're not a geologist or geographer, you'll still appreciate the site because it's so spectacular.
That's why so many movies were filmed here, including scenes of Game of Thrones.
And Thingvellir is also an important site if you're interested in Icelandic history.
It's the site where the Icelandic parliament used to meet every year for almost 1,000 years, between the years 1930 and 1798.
And we saw lots of Icelandic school kids who were in Thingvellir for a field trip.
There are many more things to do in the Golden Circle than just Gulfoss, the Geysers, and Thingvellir.
And if you want to know what else to do in the Golden Circle,
we'll put a link right here to our Golden Circle video.
Numbers 5, 6, and 7 on our list are all things to do in Reykjavik proper.
Although we encourage you to get out of Reykjavik and explore the Icelandic natural wonders, chances are you'll still spend a couple of days in Reykjavik when you get off the plane.
And while you're in Reykjavik, you should also do number 5 on our list. Go on a whale watching tour.
The cold waters of Iceland are full of small fish like herring and mackerel, and they attract tons of whales, especially in the spring and summer months.
The most common whales you'll see in Iceland are humpback whales and minke whales, but you can find several other species as well as dolphins and seals.
In the Reykjavik harbor, you'll find several companies that offer whale watching tours.
We went with an operator called Elding.
It's a family-owned business, and they're the oldest whale watching tour in Reykjavik.
And we couldn't have asked for a better experience.
Your chances of seeing a whale on one of their tours is almost 100%.
And if you happen to be the unlucky one, they'll give you a free ticket to go back on a future tour.
Luckily for us, we saw several different whales on our tour.
And one of the humpback whales we saw was very relaxed that day and put on quite a show for us.
We saw it stick its snout out like if it was checking us out.
We say that 5 times fast. We also saw it slap its fin in the water.
But the icing on the cake was when the whale went on a deep dive and we saw its tail fin get out and back into the water.
It was absolutely majestic.
And with the multiple decks on the boat, we were able to get shots from many different angles, from both higher up and at water level.
And number 6 on our list is Perlan.
If you're not going to have time to get outside of Reykjavik, but you still want to experience the Icelandic natural wonders, Perlan is a great way to do all that while staying indoors.
That also makes Perlan a great attraction to visit on a rainy day.
That being said, you can also visit Perlan on a sunny day because it's on top of a hill and it has the best views of Reykjavik.
The site used to be a set of water tanks, but it got repurposed into a museum that displays all the natural wonders of Iceland.
Volcanoes, glaciers, wildlife, all the things that make Iceland so great are all concentrated in that one spot.
One great activity to do in Iceland is to visit an ice cave, except it's only something you can do in the winter.
But at Perlan, you can experience an ice cave year-round.
I initially thought the cave would be made out of styrofoam.
But it's made of real ice.
Perlan has a mix of movies, interactive displays, stuffed animals, and real artifacts.
It's really well done, and it's great for both kids and adults.
If you normally don't like visiting museums because they're boring and too academic, you'll be blown away by Perlan.
And there's also a great panoramic restaurant on top where you can get a drink while admiring the great views of Reykjavik.
And if you're looking for thrills, there's also a 700-foot long zip line that you can go down at 30 miles an hour.
We had an absolute blast at Perlan.
And number 7 on our list is Magic Ice.
Magic Ice is a bar on Laugavegur, the busiest street in Reykjavik, where you'll find tons of stores and bars and restaurants.
But it's not just any bar, it's an ice bar.
All the benches, the tables, the walls, everything is made of ice.
Even the glasses when you drink your cocktail are made of ice.
Because the temperature inside the bar is kept at 23 degrees, they'll give you an overcoat and gloves to keep you warm.
And all the benches are covered in sheep pellets.
And the tables and counters all have rubber mats because if you leave your drink on the ice, it may slide and fall on the floor.
It's like no other bar we've been to, and there are plenty of unique selfie opportunities throughout the bar.
And the sculptures are not just random sculptures. They depict some of the Icelandic tales and legends.
And if kids are naughty in Iceland, it's not that they won't get any Christmas gifts, but Grilla the ogress will cook them in her pot.
And there's also tons of depictions of Viking sailors and warriors.
Including Vikings drinking beer and Brennivin, the Icelandic aquavit drink.
And next to the counter, make sure you also put your hand in the handprint.
And number 8 on our list is the village of Vik.
Vik is the southernmost village in Iceland, approximately 2.5 hours from Reykjavik, and it's a natural stopping point if you're doing the ring road around the island.
And while you're in Vik, there are 2 main attractions you should visit.
The first one is the Black Sand Beach, which is spelled Reynisfjara in Icelandic.
Like many places in Iceland, Vik is surrounded by volcanoes.
And when these volcanoes erupt,
the last time being in 2010, when it stopped all air traffic between Europe and North America.
The volcanoes deposit ashes all over the area.
The beach is made of black basalt grains, and they're approximately the size of kitchen salt.
The Black Sand Beach is an absolutely surreal sight. And the great thing is that it looks even grander on a cloudy day than on a sunny day.
And on the beach, you also have these lava columns, which make for great pictures.
And caves that we'll try to pronounce. Halsanefshetir.
That beach is a mecca for selfies.
The other site to visit in Vik is the Dyrole Arch Bridge, which you can see in the distance from the Black Sand Beach.
It's part of a set of rock formations that have been carved over the years by the ocean waves pounding on the cliffs.
There is a coastal walk you can do along the edge of the cliffs, and from there you can see tons of birds nesting in the rocks.
Including puffins, one of our favorites.
And the coastal walk will take you to the lighthouse.
And from there you'll have the best view of the arch. And number 9 on our list is the Seljalandsfoss waterfall.
It's not the biggest waterfall in Iceland, but we like it for 2 main reasons.
First of all, it's right on the side of the highway, and you can park right in front of it.
If you're driving from Reykjavik to Vik, about 45 minutes before you get to Vik, you'll see it on your left, you cannot miss it.
But what's really unique about this waterfall is that you can walk behind the falls.
It's a fairly easy walk, and the view from behind is incredible.
Make sure you wear a raincoat when you go to the other side because it gets more than misty.
But even from the front, the falls are beautiful.
It's 200 feet tall, so it's taller than Niagara Falls.
But it's a much smaller waterfall because it's just a small river flowing from the glacier above.
But if this was in the United States, you'd see millions of tourists there, and there'd be hotels and casinos everywhere.
But here, the waterfalls are in the middle of nature in a beautiful setting.
And if you want to take a picture of a typical Icelandic turf house,
there is one right next to the falls.
And number 10 on our list is to experience the hot springs.
Iceland is a volcanic island with lots of natural hot springs everywhere, and you cannot leave Iceland without experiencing one of these hot springs.
There's a whole spectrum of hot springs in Iceland.
On the one hand of the spectrum, there are small natural springs that are scattered throughout the country.
And at the other end, there are big commercial spas like the Blue Lagoon.
We tried a natural spring called Hunalaug in the Golden Circle area.
It's a tiny little hot spring on someone's farm in the middle of the fields.
It's like a hot tub, but handmade by Mother Nature.
At one point, we had the entire spring all to ourselves, and it was a very peaceful, relaxing experience.
Another truly unique experience is to go to the Blue Lagoon, which is located in between Reykjavik and the airport.
The turquoise blue of the water is absolutely surreal.
A question we get asked a lot is the Blue Lagoon really worth it?
And the answer is, it depends.
If you are on a lavish vacation and you can spare $120, then the Blue Lagoon is an experience like no other.
You'll be able to take incredible Instagram selfies.
But if you are on a budget, the Blue Lagoon is absolutely not worth a crazy high price. You're basically paying $120 to go to a swimming pool.
But included in the price, you'll get a free drink and a free face mask.
If you're on a budget, you can just go to the Blue Lagoon parking lot and walk the trail from the parking lot to the entrance.
You'll be able to take great shots of the blue water for free. This video is our top 10 favorite things to do in Iceland, and we didn't want to have too many waterfalls on our list.
We often joke that waterfalls in Iceland are like Buddhist temples in Thailand. The first one you see one, you're amazed, but after the 10th one, you're like, oh no, not another waterfall.
But if you like waterfalls, there are 2 more that you should go see.
The first one is Skogafoss. It's also on the side of the main road, just 15 minutes after Seljalandsfoss.
Skogafoss is also 200 feet tall, but it's on a much bigger river.
At Skogafoss, you can't walk behind the falls, but if the 400 stairs don't scare you, you can hike to the viewing platform on top of the falls.
Hopefully you're not afraid of heights, because the grading of the platform is see-through.
But the view from there is beautiful.
And if you're a hiker, you can continue to the 14-mile trail that goes all the way around to the pass in between the two glaciers at 1,000 meters above sea level.
It's one of the most popular hikes in Iceland.
The other waterfall you should go see is Svartifoss.
It's on the other side of Vik, 45 minutes before you get to the Glacier Lagoon.
That one is not on the side of the road, and it's a 45-minute hike to get there.
But it's a beautiful walk along the river in the middle of the woods.
This is as close to a forest as you'll find in Iceland.
The waterfall itself is very small and only 65 feet tall, but what's unique about it is that it falls in between the lava columns.
These columns were formed when the hot lava cooled down quickly and fractured because of the quick temperature change.
They are hexagonal in shape and are like natural honeycombs.
So amazing.
And before we get a zillion comments about it, we know we didn't talk about the northern lights in this video.
The reason being that you can only see the northern lights in the winter.
And most tourists travel to Iceland in the summer.
When we make a video about things to do in Iceland in the winter, we're definitely going to talk about the northern lights.
But if you enjoyed this video, even with no northern lights,
give it a big thumbs up.
And if you want to watch our other videos about Iceland,
we're going to put one right here.
And another one right there.
Bye.
Bye.